Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the fourth Vision U COVID-19 Parent Workshop. As we are aware, the impact of the pandemic and created a new normal for our daily life. COVID-19 changed our life drastically in past few months. Vision U Leadership Program have invited different parties to talk about how these changes affect our different aspects of life and what we can do to cope with these changes. Before we start our workshop, I'd like to acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississauga of the Credit, the Nistobat, the Chippewa, the Hon, and Ossoris, and the Wenda people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississauga of the Credit. Now, I'd like to introduce our agenda today. Today, we will have Ms. Manna Wong, the Toronto District School Board Trustee. She will talk about now the school is reopened and how our parents should know how to help fight for the pandemic. And also she will talk about the contingency plan of the COVID-19. And our second speaker today is Ms. Christina Choi of Success Tutorial School. She's the chief coordinator there. So Christina will talk about from her experience, like how our students can motivated to take part in the remote learning. And the third speaker today is Mr. Derek Hui. He is the Vision U Social Innovation Academy team lead. So he will talk about how Vision U transformed the program into a virtual and also create more social impact program. We are working with Ryerson Social Venture Zone and also the Institute for Change Leaders. So Derek will talk about it later in the program. Now, without further ado, I'd like to pass the floor to Ms. Manna Wong to talk about the Toronto District School Board's strategy in coping with COVID-19.
The TDSB staff and working around the clock to meet with all the stakeholders, teachers, federations and unions, and all different departments, public health, including public health and Ministry of Health, as well, to coordinate a plan that would meet the needs of our students and parents. So by now, of course, many of you are in school already, and so you have the sense of the kind of routine that is going to be established over the next little while, and go and to the point that we have we are totally out of the pandemic. So let me go to the two choices a little bit. And when the TDSB sent out a registration requirement for all students back in August, and asking every parent to respond to us whether their child is going to choose to go to school in person or go to online learning totally. So that's what the choice that we asked parents to decide on back in August. And as numbers came back, for us to plan the different format of learning. So at that point, we had about 68,000 students who are registered online. And basically when they transformed to the whole student population, we had roughly about 70% of students going back in school, with 30% going online. So that was back then, back in August, when parents first responded to this registration. So that number was very, very important. And numbers actually are still very important, for us to plan or to guide us how to plan. Number one, staff allocation, and then the class size, and then the kind of setting of the classes depends on the size of it in the school, and how the school can function given the space they have had, and So that was a crucial piece of information that we rely on in terms of planning. As of that point, when we had 70% versus 30%, so we were planning that way. So again, 70% of the teachers that we would have would go to school, while 30%, but then you might have heard from the media already. So over the course of 1 week, was not past week, the week before the deadline of switching their choices, just within 1 week, we had over 10,000 students switch to online learning. And then, as you could imagine, with that kind of influx of the numbers to that extent, it was it was a challenge. I put it like very plainly. It was a challenge to do staffing allocation and planning within that week of opening school, versus usually it would take the school board roughly about 6 months to do that kind of allocation. So, but within a week, we had to try to accommodate the needs of the students. So it was the number from the first number that came in from 66,000 and increased to 78,000 now. 78,000 of students going online learning. And so let me go back to in-school learning. As you know, as stipulated by the instruction from Ministry of Education, high school in-school learning class size is limited to 15. It's kept at 15. And then there will be a part during the course of the day, there will be a part of the students being in school in person, while another part of the day will be online face-to-face learning, as well as, of course, a part of independent learning. We call it synchronous learning. So that's the in-school learning for high school students as established. And you know by now, for high school, we divided the year into quadmesters with basically four quarters. So having students being able to take 2 courses at a time. So by the end of the school years, you'll be finishing 8 courses, which is the same number of courses that the usual high school student would take in a year. So it will work out. But then again, in terms of the complexity of making sure that there is enough teachers for individual subject to be doing online. So I will have to admit that there are still hiccups, still not glitches in terms of high school students, where some students will find that they could not find the 2 courses they want to take for that quadmester. So there are students, a very few number of them could only take 1 because of timetabling, because of, like, again, as you imagine with usual high school timetabling anyway, whether the course is being offered depends on the number of students taking that course. As in regular school, you have less than usually about 23 students who wanted to take one course. For example, in some of the high schools, some students may want to take, say, political science or drama. Say, sometimes they would be told that, sorry, this year there's no drama because there's not enough uptake of students who are interested in course. So same thing happens in this in-school learning environment. So at the end of the day, some students find that they can only find tabling for 1 course for that quadmester. So for that matter, we recognize that that's again the gaps being there because the number of students, because the number of teachers can be allocated. So for students who are so-called stuck in that situation with only 1 course for that quadmester, we are actually offering an alternative in the sense that there is, like, we develop courses under the continuing education department. So they are courses that are taken after 3:30. Okay, so we can easily go online, TDSB online, continuing studies, and you can see high school credits there. So there are about 126 courses offered after 3:30. Okay, they are full high school credits. So for those who cannot have the full courses taken at that quadmester, please go to that site and then find out whether you can register onto one of these continuing education courses. Again, they are full credits, so don't worry about that. You won't be getting the credit. So, by this time, I assume that most high school students who have started school last Tuesday, the 17th anyway. So there's like a basic understanding the scheduling, the mode of instruction, the communication with the teachers and the students that has been established. For students who have, or parents who have any other concerns, please feel free, please. I think this most one thing is that to make sure you contact the teacher. So like every student will have the teacher's email and log on to Brightspace, which is the platform that TDSB uses. It's not actually, it's not TDSB, the whole Ontario School Boards using Brightspace as a platform as provided by Ministry of Education. So log onto your account. So both students and parents would have access to accounts. So you can create a parent account, you can create a student account, obviously, because you have to create a student account or else you won't know what's going on, because you need to, through that platform, to communicate with the teachers, to download your course outline, your materials. So that's a platform for the student as well as for the parents. So you want to know where your student is learning, what stage of the curriculum is he or she is at, what your student is doing. You want to say whether there are assignments coming up or whether the schedule of exams, that kind of thing, that kind of information. Please log onto the Brightspace platform for account for parent. Basically, you use your student credential to log in. So I'm hoping that every parent by now would have created a Brightspace account for themselves. So if you still are concerned, please again, by all means, email me and then I can forward the link to you, or you can check Google it at TDSB, creating a Brightspace account. So you can see all this video instructions, how to set it up. So that's very important so that you can be on top of what's happening in class right now, whether your child is going to in school or virtual learning. So for the other counterpart of it, for high students going to the virtual learning, or we call it virtual school, for high school, it's been all set up, and most of them are set up. And again, your teacher would have by now be in contact with you, make sure that you are on top of information that you need to know for the courses that you're taking. So any concern, log into Brightspace, same issue with the parents who want to be aware of issues. I guess the number one thing I want to stress is that communication is very, very important. Make sure that you have that access, as well as that you would know whom to contact. And on the TDSB website, there is a list of a contact list. So basically, they will list the name of the superintendent, name, principal for the part of virtual school that your child is in. So get hold of that information. By all means, email me if you couldn't find the site. And I will also send Eric the link later on, and links later on that you can easily make it easier for you to find the space or information that you will need. So that's what I'm going to stop at in terms of high school. Because again, there are issues, still challenges of facing us in regards to elementary virtual school, which I'm going to talk about. So by all means, if you have questions about high school issues, please share with Eric, share with me, and we'll try as much as possible to get you the information. So let me go to elementary school right now. So it's the same thing as you have seen, you have experience with your children. Some of you may have your children back to school. And what's the class size? That's always been a concern for many, many parents, as the future is honestly not exactly predictable. And there's certainly a huge concern of what lies ahead of us or what will happen to us. So that's it's something always in our mind, and we definitely recognize that. And so to TDSB, health and safety is number one. I can even say that, dare to say that is more of an importance, more of a priority than academic achievement at this point. Nothing is more important than the health of our students. So that's number one, and we operate and develop protocols with that as our number one consideration. So class size. Okay, so as you have heard from various media, TDSB has proposed back in July, a full plan of how we address the class size, and of course asking the Ministry of Education to consider funding it to achieve the class size of 15 as advised by Toronto Public Health. But as again, at the end of the day, as you have read in the media and different communication from the school board, from the trustee, that was not being able to be achieved because of funding level that was given to us. Yes, towards the end of August, both the Ministry of Education and the federal government has given us extra money to and staff resources to so that we can deal with the needs in a better way. But then I want to be, again, I don't have the exact number on hand, but I just want to give you an idea that with the extra funding, we did a calculation that we basically on the number of schools I have, as you know, we have almost 600 schools with almost 250,000 students. We did a little bit of calculation, and the extra funding would have given us 1 extra teacher per school. That's what amounts to. Yes, that's what we're talking about. And then we also, TDSB has also went into like a wholesome discussion as how much we could take from our reserve fund. And I've said it in other communication that we took a hard look at it and we made up our mind. And even though we're going to deficit, we are at 2% deficit now already, okay, in terms of our TDSB budget, and which is something we have to recuperate in the future. As many of you may know that we are so-called not allowed to go into a deficit budget. So that's a concern, but like we considering all the needs on health and safety for our children, we finally decided we go into 2% deficit and took 30 million out of our TDSB reserve fund, which was actually set aside for quite a number of the other different projects. So we put those on hold and took the money out. So at the end of the day, we're able to get more about extra 300 teachers, and then at the same time deploy not teaching staff, central staff that are designated qualified teachers, but not a teaching role at central office to go back to schools. That's how we deploy our staff to make sure that we have as many teachers as possible at schools. And after careful discussion with Toronto Public Health, and they developed a method together with U of T, a database, a map per se of schools and areas that are harder hit than most other areas. So they developed a list of the schools that are hard hit, that needs most of the needs. And it was a list of 80 schools who said that these schools, these areas are the areas with most of the needs, and we have to address that severity of the concern, right? So that's why we decided, the TDSB decided to make sure that we address those issues at those schools. At the end of the day, we look at whole map again, we add another 16, so there was 96 schools that are being served, get most of the resources, and then with the needs as equitably as we could afford. So for those schools, again, directed by Toronto Public Health, would get a small class size of 15. They all have it. So you can imagine that a lot of teachers go to those schools that need it most. So for rest of the schools, and 500 plus schools, so we will have to stretch to make sure that we will be able to, as much as possible, to have some kind of physical distancing as well as a reasonable, manageable class size. But then, of course, at the end of, at the beginning of September, when there's so many students deciding to go online, that threw us another curveball in that sense, in terms of staff allocation. Then really wanted to make sure that we did approach all of our occasional teachers, our supply teachers, and any teachers who have the qualification to be able to teach full time. So we literally approached everyone. We approached teachers who might know other teachers who are not teaching but who have qualification. So really, we did that. So at this point, So the in-school learning has started for elementary, as you will all know. And then there are concerns, of course, that will come up from time to time, and it's special for schools, like some of my schools in my northern part of Scarborough Aging Court, where a lot of parents are voting online versus in school. So in school, you can try to imagine in that case, in school, with the in-school number being so few. So for example, we're having like 8 people in grade 2, or 10 in grade 3, or same thing with other classes. So there are situations where we are forced, because the number of teachers available, forced to put, and the class size requirement as well, to put 3 grades into 1 class. Like, trust me, this is something that we definitely would not consider ideal. But given the situation, and there will be staff reorganization at the end of the month, they will be all looked at in a very, very fresh perspective and balance it out. So virtual school, we are, again, because of the demand, we are at the point that we started already, as many of them you know, but then again, there's a portion, a small number of students not being able to be assigned teachers yet, because we're still working extensively to hire enough teachers. And then I just want to reassure everyone that we are working the best we could to bring more teachers online. And then at this point, we still need around 150 to 200 teachers. And then we are working very diligently to make sure that the hiring and training a teacher could be completed by middle of next week. So
Okay.
Feel free, any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you, Manna. So we will hold all the questions to the end. I'd like to have all the speakers speak that topic first. So next, we'd like to invite Christina, Choi to talk about how we can motivate our students to continue the study. Christina.
Thanks, Eric. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you, Vision U, for having me here to join this conversation, a meaningful topic. Since March, there have been a lot of changes around for everyone. And since then, our daily routine is no longer the same. And today I'm here to talk about how students can cope with, there's a lot the students need to cope with in day school, but there's also a lot of things to cope with outside day school. For example, the extra. So first of all, let me talk about what is synchronized interactive learning. So this is teachers to students, teachers to students, students to students interaction, which used to be in person. But now these in-person interaction is no longer in person. But now instead, learning is via online, digital technology, and communication rely heavily on virtual communication. So when we talk about synchronized interactive virtual learning, talking about not just posting the materials on a platform, and then the students would just download it and work on their own. So not that, because in that case there's no interaction there. So, but rather we are talking about live streaming, have a teacher teach the students online in real time, so that 2 hours there is interaction between the teachers and the students. So this is called synchronized virtual interactive learning. So not only day schools need to cope with this new way of teaching and learning style, but extracurricular activities like math tutoring, English tutoring, science tutoring, even art classes, ballet classes, dance classes, right? Everyone is moving to virtual, is moving online to teach online in the online platform. So we often get asked by a lot of parents, so how do your tutors keep the students motivated if you don't see them face to face, right? How do you motivate our children if you don't get to see them face to face? So So I have a few points that I would like to share with you all here that parents should look for when you are hiring an online tutor. Doesn't matter if it's art classes or math tutoring. Number one, the tutor has to promote synchronized learning. That is with everyone learning at the same time online. So with the teacher teaching live. So again, it's not just post materials and then student work on their own, right? You can just download something on YouTube and go to a library to work. You don't need to hire a tutor. So you have to look for a tutor that, a place, a tutoring place or an art school that promotes synchronized learning. So that's important. In this way, the student will feel connected. They will feel part of the group, which is more important now than ever, right? Number two is to encourage your children to participate as much as they can and to ask lots and lots of questions. And this is also rely heavily on the online tutor as well. For example, like for me, I have 3 classes. Every time when I teach, I call out 3 names at a time. I call out three of my students' name at a time. So I might not ask the questions right away, but whenever there are questions need to be answered, these 3 students know it is their turn to answer questions. So they can get ready to unmute, they can get ready to answer, right? So in other words, they know my pattern. They know they better be there when I ask questions online. So this is my way to get the students to participate fully, right? By me asking lots of questions as a tutor. Number 3, parents should look for a tutor, an online class or tutor, who would make goals and set expectations very clear on the students. The tutor should be able to encourage students to show up on time and to hand in their assignments on time. So think about it, when children are attending school in person, the teacher there saying, okay, now class, hand in your homework. But now if we are doing online, we have to heavily rely on students to take the initiative to email or to upload their assignments on time. We are not in person to chase them for the homework. Where in person we could do that a little bit more. So parents should look for tutors that would be able to have a way to encourage students to show up to class on time and also to hand in assignments on time. And you should look for tutors or lessons that teachers or instructors could speak clearly, very clearly, and to able to repeat instructions and even write the instructions or examples on a virtual whiteboard, or even like in a simple whiteboard or even a white paper. Because on screen, students have to rely on seeing the notes, right? Because they don't see the body gesture of the teacher. And again, you should look for tutors who would be able to provide lots and lots of examples, right? And teachers that could check for understanding, and some teachers and instructors who could provide prompt feedback. Last but not least, I think everyone has the responsibility here, not just teachers, family, online instructors, is to be able to explain to the students or children that this is not the time to slow down. Like, I know everything around us is slowing down, right? A lot of things even stopped, but for learning, this is not the time to slow down. This is even a good opportunity to learn even more, because you have more time at home to learn even more, to catch up, learn new things, or even to learn ahead. So this is very important as an instructor, as a parent, to remind your students, right? So speaking of students are taking a big part, responsible for their own learning, I want to talk about self-discipline. Self-discipline is the key to a successful learning. So not just learning, but especially nowadays in remote learning. To teachers, to instructors, to the deliverer, it's the same amount of contents, it's the same explanation, it's the same quality, I could say that, but for the student, the children, the receiver side, it could be quite different. For those students who are struggling with time management or who often fall victim to procrastination, right? Online learning may be a challenge, So for these students or all students, for remote learning, it is very important to structure your time, to set individual goals. For example, you jot down your timeline, your deadline on calendar, right? To know, to set a timeline so you know when you need to get that project done. So that's very important. And students have the responsibility for their own learning even more now than ever, if everything goes on online. And I'm going to give you an analogy. Learning is like a train. The train has never stopped. But because of COVID, the train slows down. For those people who are self-disciplined, they will take the opportunity to learn even more, to excel. But for those students who, for individuals who are not having that much of a self-discipline, they may gradually slow down. And when everything eventually picks up, it will even more difficult for those who slow down, right? So don't slow down now. That's what I'm saying. Don't stop. Don't slow down. Pick up new things to learn, right? So now that we talk about how students and instructors can cope with the online learning, family, the role of family in online learning is also very. Family plays a very, very important role in supporting students to achieve a successful, meaningful online learning experience. Of course, a lot of the families need to support hardware, get students a laptop, extra computer, a microphone even, right? So students can participate fully in class. So speaking of microphone, if student does not have a microphone, in my opinion, the student cannot fully participate in the online class. And it is even harder for the online instructor to engage the students. So at least need to have a microphone. And another way to support the children for online learning is to make sure that everyone in the family knows that a family member will be in a live video session. Right? And same goes with parents who work from home online, right? So family members should be mindful of what they addressed and stay out of the camera if a camera is on, and also help to provide a quiet learning space for the children to learn. So this is very important. Many students should know this by now, but students also need to learn how to mute the audio when they are not speaking to avoid background noise. That's very important. Other things that parents can remind their children to minimize distractions is, number one, close all the chat windows, turn off their cell phones, turn off any video online games, and mute when they are not talking. And encourage students to actively take notes, because teacher is not there to see you, hey, are you taking notes, right? You have to encourage your children to actively take notes and really, really take every opportunity to ask lots and lots of questions. Okay, so that's the role of family that I want to share with all parents here. The use of camera during virtual learning, maybe Manna, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. It may be difficult for students to turn on their camera if they do not have access to a reliable internet, or for those students who feel anxious about showing their faces on screen, right? I know at day school, students are not required to turn on the camera because of privacy reasons. I know some schools in YRDSB at some point actually banned the audio as well. They don't allow other people to hear the voice of the students. A lot of people think turning on the camera, it's allowing others to come to their home to see what's the background like. But in my opinion, showing face, let everyone see each other is important and would definitely help teachers to help engage the students, and also promote a positive learning attitude. It maintains that connection, that contact. And teachers can tell if the students are bored, if they are confused, if they are excited, or whether the students are paying attention, whether they are eating or whether they are walking around the room, right? So in my opinion, turning on the camera, it's important. And I find it is not so much that students worried about showing their faces. You know, in school, in dance classes, everyone see your faces. So it's not so much letting people see your face. It's more students worried about showing what's in the bedroom or what's in their home, and they are worried about people judging them based on that. So what parents can do is to help students set up a background that is maybe in front of a closet, like in front of a closed door, or maybe in front of a wall, or have a background like a bookshelf, like I do. So it could be a plain background. It doesn't have to be inside a bedroom or anything that is of a more with more private belongings there. So parents can definitely help with that, and to encourage students to turn on the camera and to promote more, and to help teachers to engage with students more that way, right? So if we are talking about microphone, talking about camera, technology has its limitations as well, of course. So parents often, should ask students, or, when you are having your family gathering, is our internet always reliable, right? Because obviously you don't want the interruptions there. Hardwire into the router, it's more reliable than wireless. But if you are having Wi-Fi, try to move closer to the router so to get the best possible connection. And parents often need to ask, do we have enough devices to allow maybe 2 of my children to have their own laptop or computers to go online at the same time, right? And of course, another limitation is a lot of Canadians cannot afford having enough bandwidth or even devices or microphones or headsets to use at home. So parents should look for other alternatives, right? In conclusion, we are all living in a new normal right now. And if we have more time given to us, then we can prepare for this new normal. But we don't have all these time. Everything happens so fast. It takes time to cope with this new normal for everyone, for teachers, for schools, companies, restaurants, students, right? So if your children are feeling anxious about the online learning experience, encourage them. Tell them that it's not only you, children, that feel anxious about learning online. Your teachers, your tutors, your dance teacher, they are nervous. They might be nervous too, right? It might be students' first time learning online, but it might also be the tutor first time teaching online, right? So if online is something new to your child, I would like to suggest to ask your children to log in early and do a test run. Like I always do a test run before I speak online, and also visit the virtual class in advance, right? So that could help ease some anxiety there. And parents and children, we just have to be patient and expect hiccups, like Manna mentioned earlier. There will be lots of challenges. There will be a lot of hiccups, but be patient and be open-minded. And children should participate whenever they can. Students need to step up, especially in this situation in online learning, and be more responsible for their own learning. As I said, there's a lot of initiative coming from the student side. And it is so important nowadays, we need to be flexible. Okay, like time-wise, we need to be flexible. We need to be open-minded to adapt to the new environment. We need to be understanding, right? not everyone is ready to provide online learning, right? And or provide teaching or provide learning both ways. And we all need to be very patient. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. Like, it is really a good experience to talk about like how we can cope with the new normal, right? Now I'd like to pass it on to Derek. Derek will talk about what is our strategy in Vision Youth to cope with the COVID-19. Like, we cannot have the in-class session anymore, so everything will be virtual. So Derek, you talk about the Social Innovation Academy.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for giving me the time, Eric. Do you are you able to let me share screen, please?
Yes. You can do it yourself, right? Like,
no, I think you've disabled it.
I disable it?
Yeah.
How can I do that? Like,
I think there's a button called share screen. I think if you disable it, it's fine. I can, I can speak about it. But,
Can you do that now?
Perfect. I'm able to share now. 1 second. This button. And we're off to a good start. Okay, so thank you, Eric, for giving me the time to talk about some interesting and exciting updates about our new program offering as we move on into the new year or new season of Vision Youth. I want to talk a little bit about Vision Youth first, just in case if there's anybody in the audience who is not too familiar about what it is that we do, right? We're an organization that has been operating since 2001, so it's been almost 20 years now, so props to us for that. We're a primarily 100% volunteer-based organization. So you see Eric here, you see myself here, we're all kind of giving our own time to make this program work, so thank you a lot to all of our staff. What we actually do can be broken down into 3 main pillars that we traditionally kept, which is an outdoor leadership component, which comprises a lot of hiking, a lot of physical perseverance building activities that we go through. Think about like a long hike with an overnight stay. That's the nature of the overnight outdoor leadership program. There's another component that we call the community involvement, for which we nudge the participants, or visioneers, if you will, into doing an active project, prompting them to come up with an idea that they can actually implement in our community to serve a particular group. It could be an environmental issue that they want to tackle. It could be LGBT rights. It could be anything that they're passionate about and want to bring to the table. We push them forward to actually drive some sort of impact. And we structure it kind of like a group project, and it's always really exciting and interesting to see what they come up with. And the last overarching pillar that I want to highlight is an interpersonal skill development that overarches between the 2 outdoor leadership program and the community involvement side of things, that we focus on character building, how to work in a group, all the traditional skills that we kind of want to let our visioneers have a hands-on, take on. We provide for that, and it's always been a very interesting experience to see how our kids develop over the years. So I'm going to talk specifically about our community involvement and our involvement in the projects that we've done. Some key highlights that I want to bring forward is that over the last 19 years is that we've had over 1,200 Vision Youth graduates. So that's a lot of participants that we've reached out to and actually brought into the program. We've had over 200 of these community service projects throughout the years, so props to us for that. And between these 200 projects, we've been able to serve back and give back the community 33,000 community service hours, which is quite a lot, considering how many participants and all. If you do the math and you figure out how much we're asking for kids. That being said, with all these 20 years of experience, what we learned, the overarching idea is that if we just get out of the participants' way, if we just empowered them and we gave them empowerment in the sense that you can actually, and tell the visioneers that you can actually make a difference, there's not too much that we need to do. if they're motivated and they're willing to seek the means to serve their goals, they can probably think of more ideas and more ways to actually achieve those goals if we just got out of the way. So if we are talking about building a new program and we're talking about building a social innovation academy, our new program upcoming in October, what we wanted to do and how we want to structure the program was that we wanted to partner with certain organizations and certain experts in social impact and community involvement, such as Ryerson Social Venture Zone, RUMI, and Jack.org, all these organizations that actually have an active role in community involvement. We want them to play as a mentor role as the participants go out and do their particular projects. Furthermore, with these partnerships, a lot of them have agreed to actually run the workshops, actually run the skills development. So I'll highlight a few skills, right? If you think about how can I bring an idea to market, I want you to think about what types of skills that you might involve, right? First skill, ideation, right? You might come from a position where I know I want to help the community, but you really don't know or you don't have an idea. How do you generate an idea? How do you actually brainstorm effectively and come up with different ideas and say, this is a good idea, this might not be feasible, this could work, but it needs a little bit more spitballing. So ideation is one workshop we have. Another workshop we have is what we call it building skills for change. And that has to do with a little bit about building rapport, right? Let's say I want to partner with another partner organization that does very similar, works on a very similar topic that I want to do my project on. How do I reach out to them and actually drive rapport and build that relationship so that we gain credibility and actually can move forward in a working relationship, right? What do we call it? Pitching, right? Let's just say you have an idea. This is another workshop we have. You have an idea, you have everything fleshed out, all the details put together, but how do I actually sell that idea? How do I make it exciting? How do I go to my audience and actually say, hey, you really want to be excited about this idea? That's another skill that we have as a workshop that is integral if you want to take an idea and actually flesh it out to something that actually serves the community, right? Few things. I want to highlight a few projects that we've done over the years. One particular project is called Project 5K. We're really proud of Project 5K. Their idea was basically to connect other youth and other people with organizations that could use community service hours, right? Part of the curriculum in high school, I recall this, is that you have to do your community service hours. And essentially, that brokerage, that linkage of people who want to give hours and the organizations that want to get, need participants, that's what they're actually organizing. And through their efforts, they have actually grown across 150 schools and connected 1,800 participants to different types of volunteer opportunities. Now, the reason why I think this is really exciting is because ever since they were with Vision Youth, they actually expand beyond the scope of of our season, if you will, or school year, and actually kept running. So if you Google Project 5K right now, there's still an organization that's running, and we're hopeful that if we expand the community involvement side of our program, that we'll get more of these programs that are everlasting and actually have a long-lasting impact in the community. Right. Another thing that we do on the community side of things is we have these events like tree planting and fall hikes that actually gets them to be a little bit knowledgeable about the topics that they want to investigate or do a project on. For this one in particular, the tree planting has to do with environmental issues have always been a very popular one. So some of the events that we organize have to do with like, hey, let's get you informed about the issues that you potentially want to do a project on. So with that being said, I don't have too much. Hopefully this was informative and sparks a little bit of interest about in our Social Innovation Academy. I will give a few more logistical points. Our registration does end October 15th. So if you are interested in anything that I've mentioned so far, if you are looking for some sort of group project involvement, then please sign up. There's not too much time. Any questions, you can direct to myself at hello@visionyouth.ca. And if you really want to register and then and you're sold on my little sales pitch here, go to visionyouth.ca and there'll be a registration link. And we look forward to seeing all of the participants and all you kids and all parents once we roll out the program. And again, thank you, Eric, for the time for letting me talk on this.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Since your presentation is really short and sweet. You also, I just want to update what Derek just said. We also have the Ryerson University Institute for Change Leaders, like as a partner for our Social Innovation Academy. So we have more and more partners coming in, and like you can see, most of them are already knowledgeable, reportable organizations that they has been around for quite a while. So all this experience, we hope that will be passed on to our students, and also they can like contribute back to the community. Okay,
Eric,
so
you have to forgive me. It's hard to keep the slide updating with all the traction we've been getting.
Yeah, it's a good problem. Okay, so anything to add from our speakers? If not, then I open the floor for our question and answer. No? Okay, so.
But actually, Christina, I have a question for you. Like, actually, this is Vision Youth's first year that we're actually going to be moving onto a online platform as well. What do you think would be like the biggest pitfall we need to look for? Because you had a lot of good points. But again, for us, we're also like moving online. We did a little bit on the outdoor leadership to try to move it online. I was just interested, like we're dealing with youth as well. We're running sort of like the same thing, like a class. The nature of a class is interactive. So like any suggestions for me would be very appreciated.
Sure. Thanks, Derek, for your question. So are your classes live as well? Like at the same time?
Yes, they're live.
They're live, right?
They're live workshops.
They're live, yeah. So often, like I got questions from parents and even myself when I'm a teacher myself, teaching 3 classes with I think 60 students, right? So I always want to know if my students are paying attention, right? Or whether they were just, turn on, they are there, they connected, but then they actually downstairs playing video games, right? So that's I need to know that. So I mentioned at one point it's very important to find ways to engage your students. So you have to promote interactive activities. One thing, so that's number one. One thing I do is I keep asking questions. Like I have the attendance sheet in front of me, and like you would know who are the individual participating, and you keep asking questions, like name 3 names at a time or 2 names at a time, and then get them to take the lead of explaining something or presenting something or answering some questions. So that it's I find that is a challenge, but if you are engaging enough, then the students will be very willing to to be in class with you. And if they need to step out for a second, like my students, they're very funny because they are so worried that when I ask a question, they are not around. So they would even say, "Oh, Miss Choi, I need to use the bathroom. Can I leave the room for a second?" Right? So this is a good thing because they want to be there and they don't want to miss out questions. When I ask a question, they're not there. They don't want to do that. So I would say set your expectations very clearly, but you have to make it fun at the same time. Because they don't see you, they don't see your body gesture, like they don't see like this, especially those students who don't turn on camera, right? So it's very important to make it fun and as much interactive as possible.
Thank you for that. Your comment about being calling out names takes me back to like high school days where they'd be like, "Derek, get on the blackboard." Yeah, it does keep people on their toes, and that's the type of engagement we're looking to bring into the program as well. Thank you.
Exactly. Maybe teaching math is a little bit more structured, like teaching academic is a little bit more structured this way. But even if art classes or dance classes, I'm sure the instructors can find ways to have students take turns to participate, right? Mm-hmm.
I have a question. May I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Ms. Choi, I want to ask you, I have a son is in the high school, grade 10 right now, because you know the high school right now is the part-time learning, it's not the full-time schedule, but he still have a half-times online. But I'm very, very concerning about he never go to the online learning. So the school always keep calling me his absent every day. But actually he go to school every other day. So right now I have already sent the email to his English teacher and his civil teacher. He take 2 subjects this term. And I want his teacher to make clearly to him, he not only have the school part-time, but he's still going to the online is very important. It's the relevant of the go to school, right? That is the part of evaluate the performance in school. I have already sent an email to his teacher, and I still keep track whether he still go to it online. If he don't go to online, I want to reach his principal to see whether the school have these resources keep him to the classroom whole day, because he has a special need, his autism. He cannot ask. I don't know why he doesn't make clear. I told him, if you don't clearly, you need to ask, because you asked, the teacher will thinking, this guy is very smart. If you don't ask, the teacher say, the teacher know every student, what their level, right? They know that even though you don't ask, the teachers still know you have a question, right? If you don't ask, that means you show people, you pretending you know. That is not the truth. If you don't know how to online, I can assist you, I can support you. But he never let me to help him, and he never to talk to his teacher, and never go to online. So why now I'm so frustrated right now. And his teacher replied the email. He told me he has already missed 4 assignment he's supposed to submit since the September 17th. But right now he didn't do anything online. So I'm very worried about that. I don't know whether the school TDSB can provide the full time for the autism student. He has a special need, right? I just see the principal send me the email on the first day of the school. Only the TD student have a full time, and the another student, autism student, they supposed to the mainstream class take the full time, but I don't know why not.
Sorry, is that a question for Manna or is it for Christina?
It
is it for the school board trustee?
Yeah, if a school board can do, the school TDSB have these resources you can talk about. And if Miss Choi, your school, you have the I don't know, is your high school or elementary school have full time, something like that. I know the elementary school is a full time, but the high school is still part time right now.
Okay, so Christina, you want to answer that, or you want Manna to answer that?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Manna, you want to go ahead? Manna?
Oh, Manna, you're mute.
Yeah. So, okay. So let me give it a try. And thank you for the question. And I understand this is concern again for the teacher. The teacher does take attendance. Yes, the student is not in school per se, but the synchronized learning time, face-to-face learning time online is considered in school as well, and the attendance will be taken. And that's why you've been contacted saying that your child has not been in school, because that is part of the attendance and that's needed. So again, every student has maybe a variety of different needs. And then in this case for you, so obviously your child needs a special attention in terms of how to support him through his special needs. But one thing is that for TDSB, I don't know whether your child has a special education plan, which means that the special needs that has to be addressed that have been identified before. So established that your child needs special attention and there is a special plan developed to address his needs. Is that there? Is that a
yes,
special IEP for your child?
yes, he has an IEP plan.
So like again, like you want to make sure that you send an email to the principal saying that you don't know how that plan is being supported, because every student with a specialized IEP, independent learning plan, individual learning plan, will have that needs addressed or met. Okay, so so I would suggest that you again contact with the principal, send an email. You don't need to you go into school, because again, every visitor will be screened beforehand before you can go in. So again, they want you to make an appointment anyway because of again safety issue. So send emails that you have the concern, and then you want to know what kind of support is being in place for your child, so to address his needs due to his autism. Or whether again you have to go back to the IEP, the individual learning plan, to see whether there is a mention of special sessions with another staff, another assistants, or another TA to address his special needs. So you can simply say something like he's not logging in during synchronized time. That's clearly seen, clearly documented. And then second thing, that he needs special needs assistance, and then you don't think that's being met. And so you want to ask the principal to address it, to let you know what arrangement can be made, or any special session can be done just between your student and the teaching assistant. Okay, so like for the teacher right now, you can imagine that it's not going to be able to address all this specific needs of an individual at the same class, right? So the synchronized learning teacher will basically teach that class, but there will be special personnel or assistants or teaching assistant being assigned to have another session with your child to address his needs. So you have to let the principal know that I don't think his needs are being met, or is any way anyone can have a session with him to encourage him or to give him the strategies to engage him so that he will be online, right? So you need to make sure that you share that with the principal, and you ask to speak to someone, whether it's teaching assistant with any special needs assistant, to address that point and come up with some kind of schedule that to engage your child to be engaged in. So he may still not be in the regular synchronized learning, but there should be a time there is a special person to engage with your child specifically. Okay, so please let the principal know.
Because right now, no matter how I encourage him go to online, he never. He just playing the game in the computer and listen to the music in the computer. That's what he's doing. And he always push me back when I set up all the things for him, computer, anything set up for him, turn on the computer, it's already ready. He just go to the Google Classroom, but he never willing to click on it. Just playing
there's concern that you need someone who's specialized in the field to be able to connect with him. Like at the end of the day, if the student is refusing to log on, to go online, again, as you imagine, a lot of times, it's synchronized learning, it's online learning, right? So is he going to school during the one session of the day? Is he walking into school at all? Is it only virtual learning?
He go to school every other day.
Okay, yes, that's the adaptive model. They're going to school
and
model.
Time as well.
So in that case, that's actually easier. So you can let the principal know that this is the concern. He's not logging in, not engaging himself with synchronized learning. So because the fact that he actually has to go to school for a few hours every other day, he's actually in school. So arrangement can be made between the special ed person and him during his school hours. So he doesn't have to log on to talk with the special person, right? So make sure you ask the principal to arrange that. Okay. So during his hours, it's roughly about 3 hours, right? Yes. Every other day. That 3 hours in school time, he is not logging in, and that's the best time for him to engage with another special ed teacher or assistant. Okay, ask for that.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
So Christina, anything to add, like how to motivate the student?
Yeah, I agree with Manna. It's we need maybe a separate time, someone who is special in the field to set a special appointment or a special class time for your son, to motivate, to talk to him that way, because maybe your son is not suitable, not suitable. Maybe someone needs to find out, maybe he doesn't want to be part of that big group. Maybe he wants to be in a smaller group, right? We don't know. So if someone who is specialized in the field can approach him and have him open up to that he's willing to talk to, right? Maybe it's not that, maybe we don't know. Maybe it's not that she doesn't want to learn. Maybe she wants to learn, but maybe she just doesn't want to be part of the bigger group, right? So if we can have someone find out, then we can take it from there. But yeah, talk to the principal, talk to the counselor to give you the lead of where to start, where to go from. Because again, as I mentioned earlier, it's very important. It's the student need to step up, right? The family and the student side need to do something, right? Especially in online. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, I have a question for Manna. Like, as you said, like some of the classes are not offered, right? Because of may not be enough attendance at certain school. So would that affect the student that are in grade 12 that are going to university next year? Would that be impact?
Again, as you could imagine, it's a critical time when you're in grade 12. It's really critical, even though most universities will consider marks from grade 11, to be totally honest about it, right? So they look at grade 11 marks, not exactly grade 12. But nevertheless, grade 12 is the foundation piece to confirm the achievement you have had over the years, right? So the compulsory university courses will be offered first. So don't worry about that part. For example, would I get grade 12 English so that I make sure I can go to university? It's not an issue, right? Because all the compulsory university courses will be offered. So we're talking about courses like I said, mentioned, it might be Canadian politics 101, or it might be psychology 101, or civics engagement, or a dance, that kind of thing that might not be offered. But for compulsory courses, for instance, entry, there's not much of concern there.
Especially, we call it the Chinese six-pack, right? The physics, psycho, the chemistry, like those things are, they don't have problem, right? They shouldn't have problem to sign on to those.
Yes, okay. Again, because the focus, and then they will try as much as possible to your individual school counselor who arranges for the timetable to work with you. That's the one, if you have concern about your timetable as a grade 12 student, trying to talk to your counselor to make sure that they can accommodate your tabling. For example, you say, okay, I'm into science, so I need my physics more now than later, because you have four quadmester. But then you wanted to make sure that you have it first, or the first quadmester or second, so you are really make sure, and then that's the counselor's job to make sure that tabling fits your future study schedule. So
is there any
evening ones?
Yeah. So any cases that, like for some reason, like that school may not have that particular courses offered, can they go to another school to take it? During the COVID-19?
Yes. Like, so for example, again, you can imagine you have to, if you go into in school, we're not talking about virtual learning, right?
Yeah, in school, yes.
In school means go in school every other day, and then synchronized learning in the afternoon, and then there's another group session synchronized as well. That kind of in-school learning, we call it in-school. So for that, once you chose that method of learning, you're so-called stuck with that method for that 2 months, for that quadmester. Okay, you cannot say, okay, I'm taking, for example, I'm in school, I'm only taking one course instead of two because timetable doesn't work for me. That's why early on in the beginning, I mentioned about the continuous studies courses, which are high school credits. And so you can do that to complement your existing timetable. But again, most of the difficulty lies on the courses that fewer students are choosing. Right, so for compulsory ones, say for example, math, grade 12 math, or grade 11, or grade 12 English, those would definitely be offered because they are being taken by everyone, not just, so in terms of number of students taking them, it's usually not an issue because you have to take it anyway, right? So not much of concern there.
Okay, that's good. Right.
And
Because from my experience, my daughter was in an IB program. They only take two
yes.
science. So they have to take the other science in another school. So
yes, or IB, there is honestly, there were some gaps because again, when parents and students first chose whether they would go in school versus virtual, as I mentioned earlier, quite a number of the parents choose virtual schooling, right? So then later on realized that for some of the courses that online courses that IBO would not accept. So as you know, yes, actually they would not accept online learning format, right? So it's not us, not TDSB, not the York board, it's like the international baccalaureate
the IBO,
organization, right? The international organization that's not recognizing it. So when we came to that information, so we are asking parents to consider. So I recognize that you want your kid to be online, totally, but because of that restriction, so we're offering it. We're like, it was last week, to be honest. It was last week, and we were like survey all the teachers to make sure they have the IB qualification to teach. So making sure that we have the teachers there, and then invite the students go back to school, recognizing that even if you're going back to school, it's still 15 students per class. We're not talking about a class of 30, right? So some parents did change to going back to school because of that requirement. Wow.
Okay. Nice to know. So any other question?
Yes, may I ask one more question, Manna?
Yeah.
And do you know in high school, is there any speech language pathologists in the high school? Because I want my son to attend the program. That program is help him to improve his communication skill. But they did the TDSB school board, the speech language pathologist assessment. They did this report. So I'm not sure this one, the high school they have. Is it every high school they have this?
No.
Only in
the not really. Again, it depends on the population and the needs of the students in a certain school. But then again, as I always say, students with special needs are being assisted or being supported according to the IEP, according to the individual's education plan. So if it's stated, for example, it's stated in the IEP that the student would need a special support in terms of language, in terms of motivation, in terms of, and it would, as long as they're stated on the IEP, they have to be supported. So there will be a special person to address that part of it, right? So I always tell my parents, I always say that, you have to ask, you have to let them know that. So sometimes you think there is such a need in what particular area, but it's not listed on the IEP. You have to raise your concern, right? Again, you and I are not experts in special ed. We're not, but we know the needs of our own kids, right? You know better than anybody else. So you should raise it, you should let them know, and so they can gain another perspective of the needs of your child and adjust the IEP. So once in the IEP, they have to offer it.
Because when we set up the IEP is before the pandemic, before the March break, we set the IEP plan and goal.
Yes.
Yeah, so why now? Because after the March break, everything's changed, right? So
True.
yeah, I will reach the principal definitely.
Yes. So again, you said it all. You yourself said it all. Say, given the pandemic, given the isolation and the different mode of teaching or learning, his needs have changed.
Yes.
He's totally different needs now. Like again, you are the parent who's with your child all the time in your needs, and then you can indicate that I see they need different change of needs, and I see that that we need to review it and ask what the plan it is for the school to review it.
Okay.
You have to be really vocal about it. Again, it's up to individual of us to advocate on behalf of our child. And I really say, yeah, don't be embarrassed, don't be shy about it. Please speak up. So it's the job of the school administrator to find a way to meet the needs.
Yep.
And then as parents, as I always say, we are the best advocate. We have to speak up. There's no other way. So ask about that. So you see the special needs not being addressed by EP because of the pandemic. And then you say it's really urgent, and you ask it to be reviewed and accommodated. Please do that.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah.
Eric, if you will, just a quick comment and a comment to Michelle here. You did mention that a little something about video game and the amount of hours on video game. So one thing that I want to bring up is part of the community service, we kind of have different categories of like different issues we want to. One particular issue that I personally on a stride is mental health. In particular, I've been looking a lot in video game addiction. And in all honesty, I think that this warrants a lot more attention than we're currently paying it. One thing I will say, I can't encompass the whole entire topic here, but one thing I will say though, the nature of video game addiction, games nowadays are built, there's some level of enticement in the video games themselves that is fundamentally different. That about like, it's not the same thing as Monopoly. There's something fundamentally addicting about the video games that I think it stands to research a little bit about. I'm going to post a link that I found helpful when I was looking into this topic for video game addiction. I don't know your son. I'm not going to go as far to say he's addicted, but hopefully this will actually help you connect, because I find there's the biggest disconnect that a lot of parents I see, that they think video games, like, why is it so fun? It's just like Monopoly. It's a little bit different more than that. The best I can explain it is there's a level of escapism to it, that when you play the video game, you're kind of in a different world, right? And you don't have to deal with all the other problems outside. Like I grew up where video games were widely available, so I understand that. But I can guarantee you that if you ask my mom and my parents, that they will not have the same understanding of what that video game is like. So hopefully this link will actually bridge that gap and drive that level of understanding. Hopefully that was helpful. And I do hear the frustration in your voice, and I just want to wish you best of luck. And with that.
Yeah, please share the link. Actually, I know some cases that that by playing the video game actually causing that individual student to be in certain mental health issue. So we never know. Like, as a parent, I think we really need to know what kind of game that they are in. Like always, of course, like always watch like how they use a computer. I think it's
understand first. The understanding is first is like, what is a video game? What is the video game like nowadays? Like that's the first level of understanding that needs to be like. It's my mom would think it's like Monopoly. It's not the same thing. That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess communication is the key. It's really key. Now, it's one thing for people from older generation would say, oh, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Right? You don't know what they're doing. How can you say that again? Because again, the way of learning the game of communication is a different thing these days. You're telling a child, to not to do it, they will do it more. Like because they don't see that you understand what they are doing. So the communication is again, it's not just. I agree with Derek that you have a better understanding what they're doing, and ask them why they're liking it so much, and try to understand it, and then go from there. Now, this is very, very much a key in terms of getting a chance to talk about what they like to do and why they like to do. Like, honestly, as a parent, with my own kids, when they tell me, I still do not understand. Like, to be honest about it, right? I think oh, this is so interesting, so on and so forth, and it's so enticing, so engaging. But it's like, I roll my eyeballs, so I don't understand, right? But then doesn't mean that I would stop talking to them and validating that they have the need in terms of spend some time into it. I recognize the need. That's what I'm saying. So by the same time, we're trying to, like my own thinking, again, I don't know whether I'm a city mom or not. I'm thinking is if I talk to them, like Derek can tell me how you feel. I talk to them more. If I talk to them more for, like, say, 5 minutes, they spend 5 minutes less on game. So that's like, isn't it like, that's my own thinking, right? Again, and it's not always, maybe they are dragging the feet and talking to me, but then again, you know, when they see that, hopefully, they see that I'm not saying, oh, you stop doing that. No, I'm not saying telling them. I just want to say, oh, why is it so interesting? So obviously now these days with the games, there is a component of the AI in it, right? Like all this, so they capture what you like to do and then kind of develop the way that you. So it's like very intelligent in that way. So I guess as parents, we're competing with that, okay? We're competing with the intelligence of the games. So yeah, like, so that's one of my strategies. Again, engaging them, have a plan a year, try to understand why it's so interesting. And then to be honest with you, like the radio in my car is all tuned to the music that I'm not used to, okay? So it's always the case. So usually I will go and start my car and I change the channel, right? But now I stopped doing that. I let the channel play and it stuck on me, to be honest with you. I find it like interesting. I find it like good music, some of them, like not every one of it. But then again, so I think what I'm trying to say is that we ourselves have to be open-minded, you know, and recognize that, and then try to learn, appreciate their perspective as well. So I think that's pretty key.
Yeah, I think it's good strategy. So and actually, it's very, very good discussion too. So any more questions? Like IC, right? If not, then I think we already 8 minutes over time. So I would like to thank you everyone for joining this meeting. So I will share the link later, like of this video. So thank you very much, everybody, like for joining us.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you for
Yeah, thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you.
All
Thank
the best,
you.
man.
Nice meeting
Take care.
everyone.
Bye.
Yeah,
Take care.
thank you.
Bye.
Yeah,
Take care.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.